the first one is about 42%. It means no market need, means that people build something that nobody wants. It means it's not solving a problem, right? The second is you build something it's solving a problem, but you run out of cash, so you can't pay salaries, you can't host the servers, you can't do a lot of things to take that product to or sustain that business. Another another top reason is the right team. So you have the idea, maybe you're an engineer, but you don't have a good salesperson, you don't have a person that can talk or manage customer expectations, or even you don't have very quality engineers on your team, which can lead to other issues, right? The other reason could be competition, right? So you have an idea, but your competition is doing much better in distributing, is in selling the product, in innovating as well, right? So I'm sure you can see different companies, even those that are not startups, that have grown, smartphone, or the mobile phone industry. But now Nokia is probably just trying to compete after being acquired by several companies, trying to start off again. But Nokia, I think there's BlackBerry as well, right? So competition, even if you are in the game, you still have to contend with competition. The other part would be pricing or cost issues, and then so on, so on. So these are just top reasons, but there could be more. So failure is not final. So the key insight here is that you should learn from it. It's a very good teacher, especially if you've tried something, you know that, okay, this part doesn't work. So you learn from it. Next time you try not to do it. Just to quote Henry Ford, he said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time with more intelligently, right? So the goal is really when repeat the same mistakes that you've had before and build smarter and better. Okay, so I'll talk about some. Stage in my career or when I was still in school, I have this grand idea because I want to code, I want to build something, but I've not really sat down to think through whether it's actually a problem or just a problem I want to solve. I see, but it's not a problem that many people see, right? So it has to it has to be viable. It has to be enough. There has to be enough people, and to do that, you really need to go out of the building and the best way to do it a a lending app, right? So how do you know whether people actually want to use the app? You need to find out borrow money from somewhere, from banks and all that for their business or for something, right? And is that process very they have to fill in cumbersome forms to be able to for their business. Then you test it out with users, so you can have some kind of small app or something, set of features that you can discuss with the users, and then you get the feedback and iterate. So you will see that on this side here, you have this customer discovery. This is where you're really trying to find that whether the problem exists exists, right? Then you now look at, okay, if it does exist, is it a large enough pain point that people are willing to pay for it? And is there a way you can sell that solution? And if not, then you have to kind of pivot and go back and think of another idea. So it's only when you're able to validate it that you can start looking at, creating a company, hiring people, and, scaling to other countries, other regions, and all that. So the second one will be the minimum viable product. So this is inspired by a book called The Lean Startup. So there are really core principles you need to look at. So build something very lean. So what's the minimum viable product? This is what is the absolute minimum to test your biggest assumptions and start learning from it. So rather than building the entire app, right, spending 6 months, a year, can you build a prototype or sketch something or do a dummy that you can take that you can do within a month, right? So the goal is really to maximize learning and wasted efforts. So imagine you spend 6 months building something and people don't really need it, right? So, or you've hired people to go and do marketing for a product that you're not really sure of, right? So those are all wastes that you can avoid very early if you take this approach by build, measure, and learn. So it means take something out, see something little, how other people are using it, how they're using it, and then if they want to continue using it, or if there's something that's not working on that solution, you can attempt to fix it and iterate to eventually perfect that solution and scale it. Okay, so the third principle is the validate your path to customer. So I have built this product. How do I know where they are? How do I reach them, right? Do I do door-to-door campaigns, marketing? Do I print flyers and all that? Can I easily reach them using social media like WhatsApp, Instagram, and all that, right? These are all ways you can sort of look at how to get that product into the hands of the customers easily. So this section here, I'll share with you my startup stories. These are some of the startups that I've been a part of, and I will talk you through what went well, what didn't go too well. So there's a startup was called OneVille. There's a friend of mine who had the idea and sold it to me. I became partners and we started building the solution. So it was sort of like a social media app. This was way back in 2010. I think Facebook was still not even really existing in Nigeria. And so we built something similar, but also trying to market bulk SMS. And the goal was to build an app with an ecosystem, grow it to about 100,000 users, and eventually start monetizing targeted SMS to the users on the platform to small and medium businesses. And we were growing rapidly. We're growing at about almost 1,000 users at some point. So we achieved about 12,000 users. But then obviously as the platform grew, we had to start spending a lot more on SMSs and hosting the platform. And we were also trying to look for funders, but that was very early when we realized that, okay, the rate at which it was growing, we can't fund it from our pockets. So one of the potential investors wanted a larger stake of the business, and the main co-founder was not eager to part with that much. And so he mentioned something which was 100% of a small percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing. So not too long after that, we couldn't really pay for the hosting and all that, and we had to shut down that business. Second one was a billboard solution, very similar. We looked for some idea that we saw. We saw that people were were finding it expensive to advertise and reach customers, and we're trying to figure out how to kind of make it more affordable. So we created and patented this billboards that uses that scrolls the posters. That way you can share the advertisement space. On figuring out the technology, so it was actually solar powered. We patented it and brought down the cost to a point where we could power it using a battery and solar panel, and you don't need to connect it to the electricity at all. But we spent so much money and effort on the technology rather than growing the business, and eventually also we ran out of funding, and also we also did not have the right people to market and reach customers to sell the product. So the key lessons here was really technology enables, is an enabler, but it's not the entire business, right? So you have to solve a customer problem with a viable business model, right? Ask who pays for this and why, early and often. So another startup which I've been a part of, and also very proud of being, is FlexStaff. Is an edtech solution. I'm guessing you're probably using their product in your school um, for school management and automation of the processes, particularly in tertiary institutions, primary schools, and also have done some laudable projects for organizations such as NICO, and even um, the student loan program that you see. There are also some of our solutions powering it from the back. Okay, so some of the success factors really affect was to solve, and we interacted quite well with the customers to get feedback and figure out ways to improve the product. So the product initially, say 10 years ago, was something we were deploying on servers locally. As we grew, we realized quickly that it was going to be very expensive for us to go and deploy our solution on servers in different states, and whenever the customers have issues, go to the site to fix it. So we moved to a SaaS base, means software as a service, means everything was online, and we looked for common problems that people addressed, and only other customers would potentially need and use before deploying, rather than making it a tailored solution for each customer. So we really looked at the SaaS principles. How do we make it a software as a service, thereby reducing costs using economies of scale, and at the same time making sure that whatever feature we built in was really solving the customer's problem. And over that time, we're able to grow the business over 500% in terms of revenue in about 6 years. So really, the is looking at those principles and looking at whether there's a product market fit and name the problem. So not anything that someone comes and says, but we need to validate it across different users to make sure that it was not just one person's pain point. You might find someone, it could be a ICT director, it could be a business owner who thinks it's a problem, but it's only his problem. But there's really a problem across majority of those customers, right? That's actually quite tough. So bouncing back from setbacks and never giving up is very important. You'll definitely have setbacks, but how do you bounce back? So failure is a teacher. So don't see it as I've not been able to start up my startup, and I will not attempt this again. But there's things you could definitely learn, and some of the lessons is what I applied, and I continue to apply in businesses and also advising. Okay. The another important thing I've learned is also get the right team. So if you don't have the right people, it'll be very difficult to succeed. So if you're an engineer, look for someone to complement your skills in terms of business, marketing, or other important skills that is required to really take your startup off the ground. Okay, so now that you have your idea, you want to most likely people looking for funds to start to fund their startup. So the important things to learn, right? So significant funding usually comes after you've proven that there's a real customer problem and your solution starts to show promise. It means you're not selling just an idea. Most people they'll just buy into an idea, maybe just friends and all that, but there's a limit they can give. But if you're able to show that, hey, this problem I'm trying to solve, there are 10 people willing to pay for it, or there are actually X number of people actually using it and they love it, right? I can go and show a potential investor that information, that data. So there's early stage or pre-seed or seed. Those are like very early stage. So you need to focus on really validating the problem, not necessarily building the product, right? So you can validate it by really taking a very small version that you don't need to spend too much on. Take it out to the field, do your hypothesis, and try to get feedback. So what are the sources of funding? Really, you can bootstrap, meaning that you can put your own savings and all that, or friends and family. Those are usually very early stage. And then angel investors. So these are people that really want to put aside funds to fund early stage startups, right? And they're also keen on looking at what is really important and those signs to show that okay, this problem has been validated and there are some numbers. While other companies will actually say, okay, come back to me when you're able to make this much in revenue, right? Before I can be interested in putting more funds or putting some funds into your business. So it means you'll be able to validate that your product solves a problem, you have customers, and those customers are actually paying for the service, right? So key goal before major funding. So as you're growing, you need to demonstrate traction. It means that yes, I may have the first 10 customers, right? But maybe these are pharmaceutical companies or maybe 30 customers. Competition. So this is really, in terms of technology, Africa is really very fresh, and partly because we have challenges in terms of power, electricity, but as investment keeps technology, it means this is an opportunity for you to solve those gaps and problems. So unique ideas, perspectives, and passion and willingness to learn can make a real difference in terms of what ideas you bring to the table, how you solve the problems, and seeing that those opportunities exist. So in a nutshell, really, my journey with ups and downs proves that being impactful is possible. I can't tell you how many times I've said, okay, this is my last time venturing out into starting up, solving a problem. But really, the passion is what kept me going. Whenever I see a problem and there's opportunity, I am itching to try and solve it. Obviously, once you when you're much younger, you have a lot more energy, you have more appetite for risk. So that's the right time to take those risks. Not when you're much older. Usually, at that age, you can absorb more. You can bounce back if you fail, and it's much easier to try something new. So don't give up, persevere, and this is really a chance, opportunity to build. Thank you very much. We'll stop here for questions.
I think there's an echo. So
Can you hear me?
I believe you can all hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's really, really huge. I really appreciate that. I will really learn a lot from this. So, I think we will be, without much waste of time, we'll go to our next speaker, which is Peter. So, I believe Peter is in this call. Um, oh, wow, unfortunately, I think he just left. Okay. Um, wow, Peter is not here. Okay, sir. I think before Peter joins back, if you can add some words. Okay, yeah, Peter is back. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. So, Mr. Peter will be taking us through the AI-driven innovation and startup mindset. So, he would walk us through how it takes to build and grow your startup from zero to something big using the power of AI. So, you're highly welcome, Mr. Peter. I think you can go ahead. Okay, let me make a short introduction of Mr. Peter before he unmute his mic. So, Mr. Peter is an AI engineer and CEO at Green Tea AI, currently leading the innovation at Apollo Hope, who will share powerful insight on building and scalable AI-powered startups. So, thank you, Mr. Peter. I think you can just go ahead.
Multiple, please.
Okay, yeah, good afternoon. You're welcome.
Thank you. So without wasting much time, and thank you for the section, Mr. Abubakar. I really enjoyed myself, and you've already spoken mostly on a lot of things. Sorry, I'm joining in from a program or an event I just finished from, where I was having a practical section on how to build an AI solution. Mr. Mr. Mohammed, I don't know, can you share the screen or do I go ahead? Do I go ahead from my end? What do you think?
Okay, yeah, I think I'll share it right now.
Oh, okay, let me, if I can share, let me just share it if I can.
think we
You can see my screen,
can
right?
see your screen, sir. Yeah, sure, we can see it.
All right. All right, thank you. So the first speaker has really spoken very deeply and it's about having a startup venture, things like that. So maybe from my own end, I will just maybe share my story. If you're interested in listening to my story, I'll just tell my story basically, right? Without talking much on what we have here. And yeah, um, I'm the founder of Greeting AI and AI startup, and also the innovation manager, the hub manager at the University of Benin Innovation Hub, right? And from the first speaker's speech, I want to understand, I want to learn from what you have gotten, right? So I have like a question. So in the chat box, in no particular order, can I can I have answer to the question, what is a tech startup? So I'm checking the chat box. Maybe the first person to answer gets a gift. So 5 seconds, 3 seconds. Who's counting for us? What is a tech startup? From what the first speaker said, and from what we know, a tech startup. Nobody. You can just type
Okay,
in.
there are some people that want to they want to talk. So I can take the.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
one minute. All right. Yeah, good afternoon. I
Yeah.
can hear you.
My name is Adam. What I understand by tech startup is basically like having an idea on startup and one want to move it further, maybe to establish it, from the grassroots. So one want to maybe having a plan on the tech, want to scale it into a bigger group.
Yeah,
That's all.
I agree with you. That makes a lot of sense. Those on the group, we're not clapping, we're not reacting. So this does not allow us to like give a virtual clap. All right. So,
Okay, I can see someone. Okay,
tech, sorry,
I know. I said I can see Abubakar Yugu that saying a new innovation on the
any,
chat box. Yeah. So
yeah, encompass that as well, but it's still limiting to just a new innovation because not all tech startups are new innovation. But yes, it's part of the discussion
okay,
of
there's
what.
someone also want to speak. Yeah.
All right.
Hello,
I
good
think
evening.
one more question.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can hear you.
My my name is Musa Walaruna. Based on my understanding, a tech startup is a startup like some people to group themselves and understand a particular problem faced by people, then try to bring a solution that will solve that problem, from which there will be generated revenues and provide employment to other peoples. From there, which it will later become a company or something like that.
Okay. That work as well as a tech startup. You mentioned a group of people come together. You mentioned provide employment. You mentioned start then coming together to form a company. But you didn't add something techy inside it. You know, a, a group of farmers can come together to provide maybe a machine or a motor that can help to process maybe things like Gary, right? It can give employment. Maybe they can create more machines, more persons are employed. They can have a company from it. But I may not say it's a tech startup because a tech startup is okay. Let me just give. Uh, okay, okay, to pursue knowledge in technology. All right. I've seen our beautiful response. So what I have here said, a tech startup basically uses technology to do things faster, solving a problem faster and better at scale. And I give an example, Paystack, Flutterwave, and Facebook. Now, a startup and a tech startup are kind of two different things. Like the idea I gave about if a group of farmers coming together, finding a problem, fixing them, they can have a startup and later on become a company, but it's not leveraging on technology, right? But a tech startup basically will leverage on technology. And one key difference between a tech startup and maybe a startup, right, is one grows by addition, another may grow by multiplication. How do I mean? Take for example, when I said group of farmers produce the machine that can process Gary, the more machine they produce, the more persons they are able to employ to use those machines. You see, as they produce one machine, they can employ one more person additional, right? And they can get maybe 2 or 3 more customers who are able to come buy their products and use them. But that is like addition, right? Adding gradually one after the other. But a tech startup basically is more like a multiplication kind of thing. I'll take, for example, Paystack builds a service that enables users process transaction. You see, their customers in a day, they may have up over 100 plus customers. Tomorrow, they may have 200 plus customers. So it's more like multiplying very fast over time. Facebook, their first production, they may have 20 customers. Tomorrow, they may have 100 customers. Next day, they may have 1,000 customers. You see, it just multiplies so fast, right? And it's serving a lot of persons almost at once. So that is basically how I categorize a tech startup as. Then why does it matter? It basically helps us to solve a real life problem. So I'm going to run through this so that I can quickly share my story because the first speaker has really touched much on a lot of things that we have here. So as a startup, there is a little quote I have says it enables you to not follow the old rules, right? As a startup. And having a startup has one advantage. It basically has no age limit, right? Getting or starting a company of your own normally may have some kind of age limit in having or building them, even owning an organization. But building a startup, even from your room, from your house, you can build something that a lot of persons are making use of, right? So it basically do not have age limit. I think there's a coin that was launched, I think TAP, if you know of the tap that was during that time, you keep on tapping on your phone. Something that was built by a Russian kid. I think he was below 18, I think, So there's really no age limit as far as you can fix a problem. Being a startup basically is having a catalyst mindset. One is to be curious, to focus on problem solving, to be bold, and also to learn from failures. Then again is finding a startup idea. How do I come up with an idea that may scale over time, right? The truth is, it's not all idea that scale, even if we try to form a startup from it. But the beautiful thing is that we can always learn from it. One, we said looking for problem around you in your house where you stay, in the environment where you are, from the school where you go to, from people you interact with, is basically looking for a problem to solve. And the beautiful thing is about solving a problem is because it gives room for another problem. So it means that there is a guy that sang a song. He said, "Problem no dey finish." Sorry, can use broken. He said, "Problem do not finish." Right. So it's a it's something that will not get exhausted. So it simply means that we have a lot of things to think about. We have a lot of ideas to process, because there are a lot of problems. Take, for example, the banks came in to solve a problem. And that problem emerged. slow service, slow network. Then the like of fintech came on board. Another problem, um, security online. So another thing that you want to do, okay, how can these fintechs be able to solve security issues online? Another problem, the likes of the blockchain and the rest came on board, decentralized system. Okay, how do we make all these things work? You see, as you try to solve one, another comes up. Try to solve one, another comes up. So there are lots of problems. So the thing is, what problem exactly do you want to solve? Another thing I said, you can get an idea from discussing with people. So you may want to see, okay, what frustrates people, what gets them annoyed, what do you think that when this thing is in place, that they will be able to, do well or do better. For example, there are some communities that they may not have water. So an answer to them, and it may frustrate them, something that may elevate their spirit is probably able to dig a borehole for them. So it elevates their spirit. I'm not saying that is a startup. I'm just giving an example of a problem that you can find among people. I'm like, okay, I want to fix this. Facebook found a problem and they were like, oh, if somebody is in this part of the world and maybe later on the person travels to this part of the world, how do I connect with that person? How do I see that person? They're like, okay, why don't we build Facebook in such that I can recommend my friends to me, I can see their daily posts, I can see their current pictures, I can know where they are, have conversations with them. So interactions with people help to solve problem. Another thing is passion for solving real needs, and all this I'll share in my story when I start giving my story. So basically, these are steps to launch your tech startup or your tech venture. The truth is, it's not limited to this, and it's not compulsory to follow all this, but it's one of the key things to do when trying to launch a tech venture. One of which is identifying the problem. The next is feasibility study, really carrying out analysis to understand if this is really a problem. Sometimes when you go for pitch competitions, they will ask, why is it a problem? Why is it now? Is this really a problem? So your findings from your report you take down, from discussions with people, those help with to create a study base to understand the problem to fix. After understanding the problem they face, exactly how they want it to be fixed. The next is maybe you want to build a simple solution that can fix this problem. It could be a website, it could be an application, it could be a software or thereabout. After building it, those persons that you ask questions, you can take it back to them and like, see what I built. I think you should try it out and let me know if it's able to solve your problem with what you said before. And maybe they say, oh, okay, let me try it out, and they test it and they give you feedback. The next feedback they give you maybe are other things that they feel can be in this application. For example, maybe you want a device or a software that help people keep their health records. People can monitor their health status and everything like that. You can, I mean, when they tell you that, oh, I can't really go through, I can't really see my health status. I don't even know what drug I took the last time this happened. I don't even know the doctors. They want to have a health record, that can also do analysis to them and tell them how often maybe they fall sick, what they normally react to, things like that. They can just open an application and they can see their health record. You're like, oh, okay. So they are more careful about maybe some things that disturb them. That could be a problem. Then the next could be like a solution to that particular problem that you're trying to fix for them. Then you can build a website or an application. You're like, oh, enter your name, date of birth, and all those things. So it starts then, whenever you go for all this, enter them on this application. So you have to save your record. You have to give you analysis of these reports. They're like, oh, nice. And when you're building it, you give it back to them and they're able to use it. Then over time, they're like, oh, what if can't I be able to check my sugar report, my sugar analysis? Can't I be able to see their BP? So you can add all those to the application as well. Then I said common mistakes to avoid when trying to build a startup, waiting for a perfect idea. The truth is there are no perfect ideas. So right, the basic thing is starting up. A guy called me last 3 weeks and he was like, Peter, you have a tech startup, and I know you're an innovation manager at Uniben Hub. You help to mentor and incubate startups, and it's like I have this idea of solving educational issues. Say, but my problem is there is Udemy already. So how do I have come to this space? I told him something. There is no perfect idea. I said, okay, if it's the idea of developing Udemy that you have in your head, why not start developing it in a way that suits your own taste? When developing it, send it out, let persons use it. From their feedback, you get to start improving on it. Then another thing I told him is try not to do it alone, because if I try not to do it alone, to wear you out, delay much on it. So why not you find like minds, the persons that you can share your ideas with and they are involved in building them. Many big companies that you heard of, you are currently hearing of, one man gets the idea, he tries to have a skill around his idea, he shares it with people, and they're able to buy into it, and they start coming together to form a startup, right? Another thing is not ignoring. Another thing is ignoring feedback. A lot of persons, when you tell them that, oh, you don't think this is going to work like this, they sometimes they feel you're an enemy of progress, and they don't really take your feedback, and one other big mistake is giving up too soon. I was watching a documentary from Jeff Bezos, and I think over 12 to 10 years since he started, he was not making any profit. And they interviewed him and they were like, oh, you're not making any profit yet. And he's like, yes, that he's aware that he's not making profits just yet, but he believes that he will make profits. So sometimes you need to be patient, instead of giving up very early on your startup. Then there is a perfect quote from this guy, Zig Ziglar. He said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. That is another perfect definition or an example to startup founders. A lot of startup founders don't really have a lot of money, a lot of resource to start their project. But the truth is, you may not really need a lot to start off, right? But gradually you can get there. So don't worry, I'll share my story now, right? Before I go to the question part. So Greeting AI is a startup that I had the idea, not Greeting AI was the name though. I had the idea like since when I entered university. So when I was around 100 level, I wanted to start programming and things like that. I didn't have a laptop. So there's a friend of mine, his dad had a laptop. So his dad gave him the laptop and he was into gaming. He wanted his laptop to play games and things like that. So I wait for him. Whenever he and his friends are done playing games, I like borrow his laptop. I'm like, please, can I borrow your laptop? I just want to type some things in his laptop. And he's like, oh, okay, fine. So he gave me the laptop. I started learning how to write codes. I started learning how to program. So when the time he gives me a lapse, I give him the laptop back. So I was able to continue that until my mom was able to gather some money and she got me a laptop at that time. So when she got me, I was like, oh, finally I have a laptop. So I said continue how to program. But currently, you may not really wait till you have a laptop. Even your mobile devices now accommodate like maybe editor text and things like that. And the truth is, building the tech venture must not really revolve around you writing code, right? So, but it's you having a good understanding of what you want to build first place. So I progressed from there gradually. I started sharing thought with like-minded of persons. I'm like, why don't we have more like a community where we can teach other persons? I feel some other persons may have this problem. They don't know where to start from. They don't know how to start. And I'm like, okay, because I started web development before. Currently, I'm an AI developer. Some of them at that time they were into graphics, some were into um, backend, some were into software, some were into robotics and things like that. Most recently or later on, someone into cloud and or like why don't we all come together and try to assist other persons? So gradually at a time where I said the AI space, so I had very good interest in artificial intelligence, and I focus more on AI development, AI models, and things like that. Then I said to myself again, I'm like, okay, there are other persons that may want to start off in the AI space and they may not have like a coach and things like that. So I volunteered to be on different communities wide so I can be able to teach, mentor persons on AI and also learn from maybe other persons that are good in the AI space that maybe it enabled me to find them better, so can have like a cluster, can have like a discussion, can have like webinars and things like that. So moving on, I started off teaching people for free AI, data science, data analysis, and things like that. Most of my classmates, most of my senior colleagues at that time, while I was still in school. Then gradually, I worked with different AI companies remotely. I worked with some AI communities as well. Then the idea I was having like way back, I wrote them down at that time, but I was going through the process of maybe building myself to be able to, handle the idea, trying to understand basically how to implement those ideas and things like that. Then later, I shared the idea with some other persons. Some I with persons I groomed, some persons I mentored, some persons I came across while doing community events, programs, and things like that. And they were interested in coming together to let us build something. I came up with a name, Written AI. Written AI basically means passion in artificial intelligence, great passion in AI, artificial intelligence. So that's how we came out and put it together. And and sometimes your team may discourage you, right? But you are the what's the word now? You are the founder, you are the initiator of the idea. So sometimes you may want to act fast, right? So it was not so perfect, right? It's not still so perfect, right? Because we are still a startup, we are still building. But the beautiful thing is you need to push it out there. You need to start. When you start off, you get feedback from persons and you're able to navigate through, you're able to improve, right? If I had not started then, if I was waiting for a perfect time, if I was waiting for trying to refine the idea, I don't think Mr. Mohammed would have come across me at all. Never know. Well, I started off, I put it out there, and this is where we are now. It has been a long, long journey. So that is basic story. So I'll be taking questions. If you have questions, you can drop them in the comment section. You can drop them in the chats. Everywhere looks so quiet. I don't know. Nobody's chatting. Nobody's saying anything. That bore everybody.
It's really massive, Mr. Peter. Thank you very, very much for this huge presentation. Most there are some there are some students here, so probably the online participants are not that much, so that's why the place is not engaging like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe now it will be a time for Q and A. Our third speaker is not present, so I think we have some issues. So unfortunately, we can't uh, accommodate him for now. So we will now be moving to the Q and A session. So this is your chance to ask if you have any question. I believe we've all learned a lot from this. So I could remember. Let me just give some of the things I have learned. So, for instance, Mr. Samir, which is one of my biggest mentors, I can say in life, because he really helped me when I'm building my own startup. So the first thing he taught me is there is a book which is Four Steps to Epiphany. On that book, it summarizes the um, from the customer discovery discovery to customer validation to customer creation and to the company building, which is that's on the 4 steps to epiphany. So it really helps me a lot. Whenever I have an issue, I used to run to him, and he would like mentor me. Say that go and do this, go and do that. So that's really a lot. And I would also recommend you guys to go and look for that book. It's really helpful. So, and also, as he mentioned that the African tech is brimming, I believe there are a lot of young people in this session. So the African tech industry is brimming, and there are a lot of opportunities that you guys can leverage. So you be the one to lead it. Yeah, that's for Mr. Samir. Thank you very much, Mr. Samir, for that. And also, Mr. Peter mentioned something about identifying the problem, look at how others are doing, and he mentioned that you can start building something simple that solves a critical problem. Then you can test it with users. When he mentioned that you can test it, you have your own companies. Like if you are a student, you have your friends. You have if you are at work, you have colleagues, and there are some community people that you can test it with that, and also you can keep iterating until you confirm that it solved the problem, and also be open for feedback. That's really really helpful. So don't ignore feedback. That's very important when you're building some things. And I think, yeah, he mentioned something about you have to be great. Okay, you don't have to be great to start. You have to start to be great. That's a great quote. Actually, I've also learned something from that. So let me start by asking Mr. Samir. My question to you is, you scale businesses, you help startups like that from idea to a real product. So what is the moment in your life that you fell apart? You feel that things are not going at it's supposed to be, things are not working. Like if you even have a team, the team are not responding well. So like what mindset helped you push through? How are you able to um, like use that moment to do something to, I mean, yeah. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Well, okay. I can count so many. There's so many.
uh,
Especially when you sunk in money, time, energy, effort. But I think the most important thing to me was one, I see it as a learning opportunity as well. And sometimes, um, I'm working on something, things are not going my way. I don't have the right people to work with. So, taking a break, doing something different, just to recharge, helps me manage those kind of frustrations. Just take a break from it just for a short while. Then I feel motivated again. Sometimes look at it from a different perspective. But there are, I'll say, particularly this billboard project. So I have a very close friend of mine. We're working on it together. And what we set out to do was say, okay, let's pool resources and look at, I think maybe it was then we put like 3 million together to say, okay, what can we start? Assuming we had 3 million naira today, what can we build, right? And so we went to China, researched, went to China, got a product, brought it here to sample and see, okay, whether people thought this was a good idea. We had some good feedback, but then we realized that okay, we had some limitations in terms of electricity. How do we power it? To connect it to the street lights and electricity, you have to go and meet the authorities. There's a lot of process, and the cost was they're not going to give you like a fixed rate. There's no meter and all that, right? So we thought, okay, let's shift it a bit. Let's figure out how to power it to solar and batteries and all that. And then they didn't have any product that existed in China, then at least that we saw, we could find that could bring that cost down. So over time, really, we spent quite a lot of money, time, and also we had some people to almost eventually we got the billboards down to Nigeria, which we after we patented. So what we did was we really got different parts from different vendors, and we shipped to a particular person who was able to assemble and test it for us, and then send it down here. So the next phase was how do we get a customer and start mounting. We also had the next set of challenges. How um, how do we hire people? Most of the people that were asking for that could do that were either too expensive and all that. So we went to start with students or NYC people that are looking for extra jobs and all that. There were also had some electrical engineering background, all that, to be able to set it up. So really, in terms of frustrations, there are bound to be frustrations at every step of the way. You've solved this challenge, and then before you know it, there's the next problem to solve again. So, really, taking a step back is one. Taking time to rest, reflect, also meet other people, bounce around ideas, and also if you're passionate about it, really, is what helps you persevere. That's great. You actually would want to solve that problem. Those are some of the things that really helped me push through those periods. But obviously, we've gotten some level of success. For example, for the billboards, we got some customers. We were running for like 2 years or so, but we just couldn't scale. And he was getting married at that time, so he didn't really have the time and to commit, and he had kids. So those are some of the factors that really affected scaling of the business. But going back, um, if I look at the lessons I've learned and also have applied it going forward with other opportunities, was that right now asked for the business model very early on and not just focus on the technology. You spend so much time and money on the technology than actually looking for customers or line up customers that could pay for the solution. We could have probably used the customers' funds to actually get more of the products and operations and all that, as opposed to using our own funds entirely. Thank you. Any more questions?
Wow, that's a lot. Wow, that's a great journey, and I think we've all learned from this input. Thank you very much, Mr. Samir. So, another question that I have for Mr. Peter. Um, so, as an AI engineer or AI innovator, you see like the people, the mindset that we Africans have. So now, if we are shifting the current mindset that we have, so that we can build some relevant application that scale globally. So now, what is your own input? Like, how can we use this AI to build solutions that can scale globally, not just building the local apps? So how can we think globally, not just locally? Like, how can we leverage the AI? So that's my question. So after me, then anyone can ask his own question. So I can see some question in the chat box. So thank you. That's my own question to Mr. Peter.
Basically, building on it and scaling globally is first of all knowing what has been done or what's on ground, right? Okay, let me just quickly share a link where in our webpage where we have like several AI tools that we have been able to put together. Let me drop them. So yeah, you can see the different AI tools, what they solve, and you can use that as an insight to draw inspiration to what to build leveraging AI. It could be also what you've done already or what you did, but now you are thinking of how you can incorporate AI in it. So there are two ways in the AI space. Like I always tell anybody that they are the consumers and they are the builders. Now, the builders are mostly the AI developers, not the AI developers now, basically the data scientists, deep learners, machine learners, and people like that. What they do is able to compile most of these models so that we can consume those produced API now to maybe solve specific problems. For example, ChatGPT has several APIs, Gemini has several APIs. So sometimes we may not concern ourselves now with the mathematics and a lot of theories involved. We are just able to consume this API to solve a specific problem that is tailored to our need. And like just I think last 2 weeks on the 10th of May, I was in a hackathon and they're like, we need an AI that is able to respond to health challenges, sorry, safety challenges and safety issues. And immediately I just quickly I didn't have to start developing maybe mathematics or models from scratch again. I was able to quickly consume and created a website that quickly attends to persons as regards safety issues and so that it was one problem that came on board. So sometimes you get inspiration from problem by knowing what has been on ground, what other persons have seen. It's able to expand your ideas, even news, sometimes through hackathons, through community programs, community events like this. That's why I always encourage people to be part of a community, so all this can be able to like shape in and broaden our space globally on places that AI can, have an input.
Thank you very much for this wonderful answer. So, so I think also my own advice to you guys, we should also try to always be, as he mentioned, also be participating in hackathon. I can remember, I think there is one something Solana hackathon that they just closed yesterday, and there are other communities like the GDG communities. There are other opportunities, tech communities that you can join. So where you can connect with the like-minded people that I think these are the where you can build great things with other people. So thank you very much, Mr. Peter. We have some other people here that have some questions. So um, who will go first? Yeah, okay. Tell you and just ask a question.
Good evening, Mr. Peter. This is Jesse outside here. I'm so super excited and I really appreciate this opportunity and everything that you do. So here are my questions. Can I go on?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. We here in Nigeria, there are a lot of kind of rules or kind of limitations. So I want to know, like, for starting a startup, like, what are the things necessary? More like registrations, maybe car registration and others. I don't know things because one may like start and there are high chances they will just bring maybe EFCC to you that you are breaking a rule. And then the second thing is what are the best or the best possible ways of getting co-founders? Because I can see you guys are working as team. So like, how can one meet up and do this? And my third question is like, how can one validate whether to go into software or hardware, both maybe AI, but AI hardware or software, most especially in Africa, that is still yet to catch up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that question. I think the first question that you asked, you said, how to be sure that you are not going against some rule building a startup or developing a startup. Well, one thing, first of all, you can understand maybe the rules on ground. But the truth is, you may not really know what the rules on ground. That's why it's a startup, right? And the startup is giving you a platform to innovate, using technology. So the beautiful thing is you can build it out there and see how it's interacting. Google has over no up to 500 plus other applications that they did not even launch. they had to do it with them because they were not really serving, they were not working. So starting off, I don't think you should limit yourself too much to a lot of rules, right? The basic thing is get the problem and try to innovate around that problem. Don't really concern yourself much with any form of burden. Then when it starts scaling, that is when the real concern comes in. When it starts scaling, that's when you have to do a lot of research now. You now have to go through the issue of maybe even having a lawyer, understanding the policies on ground, knowing the registrations that you need to be aware of, right? That's when you're not trying to progress, moving your startup now even to like a company, you now have to do a lot of registration. But starting off, basically, you want to just see how people interact with what you are producing and get the feedbacks on it to improve. You cannot start immediately to start doing registrations and stuff like that. Why? Because you've not really gotten feedbacks, you've not really gotten experience from starting off instead of pushing that far. One of my mentor, he told me something. He said it's better to fail locally than to fail globally. Because if you fail globally, you have lost the market. But if you fail locally, then there is room to improve. Now, let me explain. When you push out your idea, push out your solution, you got those around maybe just your community can, have the experience of maybe trying it out. If they don't really like it, then you get the feedback from them and improve on it so that when you're pushing it out globally, you know that yes, that they have gotten the experience of consuming it and gotten the feedback and you have improved on it. So when you send it out global, there's a high chance that there would not be too many errors or problems from using your software or solution you're trying to build. Then uh, the second question was around how do you know which to venture into? Is it the hardware AI or the software AI? The truth is, it must not even be AI, right? I ended up in this AI space. Now, I tried. The truth is, you will never know until you try, right? So I know websites is very easy to some people. So I started with websites, right? But I found myself struggling with websites. Why? Because I'm not really good with front end. I'm not really good with colors and things like that, you know. So, because I have a very bad, good color sense, I may not really perform well as a front-end developer, right? So I don't need basically a space where you struggle too much or you find yourself always struggling. I don't think you should pressure yourself too much. Sometimes is basically something that relates to your lifestyle, Personally, I have very good interest in mathematics. I love mathematics. I can teach mathematics. Even when I even wrote a mathematics textbook. So it's something that I really found interesting. So that was when I started off machine learning and AI. I found myself, really enjoying myself. I was not struggling. But persons that were doing front end, when they tried to start doing AI, they found themselves always struggling and they keep on asking me, how do I do it? That is difficult. I'm like, oh no, it's not difficult. But when I was doing front end, that web development, I kept on telling them, oh, this thing is hard, it's difficult. And they were like, no, it's not difficult. Also, you see the different interactions and there are different digital space. So it must not really be AI. There is a lot of other space and a lot more is still coming up. There's even cyber security, there's program management, project lead, there's even the likes of HR. The HR, these are persons that really they know how to show concern with people naturally, It's now a tech space that they can start leveraging on and they can even build on. There are even the likes of consultant, the data analysts, a lot. There are those in cloud computing, you know, a lot more on other areas are still going to unfold. So it's basically researching a lot of these areas, trying them out. There's UI UX, seeing which of them serve you better. And another question was, how do you find this team of people? Like I said, you can basically find them through meetings like this. You get to find people of like minds. You cannot find them, so you can't find them really in the market, right? Because in the market, basically, you're going to just buy something and go home. It's except maybe in gatherings like this. Sometimes people come to gathering like this, they just come and go home. Sometimes I advise them to network, discuss with other persons, know what they are doing, know where they are, share things that interest you both, keep conversations going, share what you are doing, maybe on the community group. Once you share them, you may see somebody that have interest in that same area. They may reach out to you, and gradually you guys can start forming a team. You guys can start building things together. It could even be your course, those of you are in school. Could even be your classmates. Those are like minds as well. So those are some places you can get persons of like mind and things like that. Thank you. I don't know if I answered.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you very, very much for this wonderful answers. Thank you, Mr. Peter. So, who will go next? Yeah, you can tell your name. And
Good afternoon, Mr. Peter. My name is Issa Maria Mohammed. So I want to ask, how have you been able to handle the vast nature of AI in the sense that it has access to lots of information? So, and you said something about the use of AI in safety and health sectors. So, how are you able to handle the fact that it has access to a lots of information, but this information might not be applicable in sense of special cases of individuals that a particular method might not be the safest way to be used? How are you able to handle these kind of problems?
All right, thank you very much. So,
sorry.
can you hear me? All right. So, in the AI space, AI has application in several areas. I mentioned the health safety, so it can be applied safety in oil and gas and security, in the healthcare, in education, in the business sector, in the financial sector, and government sector, and what have you, even the educational sector. So, a lot of areas. So, I think one of your questions was how are you able to manage the application of AI in several of these sector. So most times it depends on your interest. Which of this sector interests you more? It could be that the design area, those in the creative, they interest you more. It could be education. Education interests you more. So you may want to focus more on things around using AI for the educational sector. Why there are some persons that they have vast experience in different sectors. Why how did they do that? From interaction, from learning. So the truth is you want to keep learning, right? In this different area, in this different sector. Then you also made mention of playing safe with AI. There's another sub. Is it really sub? There's an AI topic or AI category that talks about ethical AI, the ethical use of AI. So even some persons are scared of how AI may, be very dangerous and things like that. But that is why there is a course called Responsible AI and the ethical AI. It's basically the laws that guides the use of AI in our everyday usage. So there are even hackers, right? There are the good hackers, there are still the bad hackers. So the first is you want to be modest in your application. So as humans, you want to be modest in application because you don't want to cause harm to your fellow human being. So it's advisable you even go through ethical AI, go through the responsible use of AI so that you can be a very good AI developer that is saving humanity and not even destroying humanity. There are the hackers too. Banks employ hackers, governments employ hackers, a lot of persons employ hackers. So they are both the good and the bad hackers. So there's also laws that governs those that haven't hack. Hacking is another tech area. So persons that have interest in, digging into people's business. So sometimes they can decide to go into hacking. So it's basically being responsible and being ethical in the use of AI as well. I don't know if I'm able to answer your question.
Okay, have you? Yeah. Thank you very much. I think you've answered it very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. So going next, I think we have a question on the chat box, which is saying, what keeps you going when your startup feels stuck and you start doubting everything you're building? So I believe, Muhammad, who do you direct the question to? Samir? Yeah, Samir.
Sorry, can you take that question again?
Sorry?
Can you take the question again?
Okay, what keeps you going when your startup feels stuck and you start doubting everything you're building?
Well, a number of things. First of all, if have that strong conviction and belief that what I'm doing is solving the problem, I'm getting feedback. Um, that kind of keeps me going. If the feedback is, let's say, if you're stuck now, in this case, depends on what you consider as a stuck, right? So it means stuck that there's no headway or it's a good idea, but somehow I'm stuck. But assuming the idea is actually good, but maybe something else is hindering me from progressing. I think in that case, looking at even the feedback, the positive feedback, and from the users and all that is also a way of encouraging you that you're actually going in the right direction, right? So that could also serve as a good motivator to go on. The other parts also could be that the feedback could be bad, right? And that's why you're stuck. In this case, really what you need to do is think of it as lessons learned, assuming they're actually valid feedback, and it means it's time for you to pivot, right? It means don't spend so much time pursuing that idea. Go back to the drawing board and think through, okay, this idea I had was not really a great idea, and this is why. And the why will be based on feedback, right? Um, the users that are actually using the your product are telling you that, okay, it's not really something I'm interested in now, or they use it but then they don't come back to it again. Those are all indicators that you can look at and say, okay, is it time for me to pivot? Or while you're doing that, so also one of the things that keeps me going is in the process of solving one problem, while I'm talking to some of the users, I also tend to discover other problems. So when I'm stuck on one and I see there's no headway, then I also see it as lessons learned for me to pivot to this new potential opportunity or idea. So instead of spending too much time on that one, I could focus more on this, assuming that I've done all what I think is possible to get the right amount of feedback for me to decide that, okay, is it good for me to pursue this or to change to a different idea?
Oh, wow, that's really huge. Thank you very much, Mr. Samir. I think I could relate this with there was a time that I went to you when I was like building Fast Find. Okay, you even helped me. There was a something that you can recommend to me, which is the mom test approach when asking for feedback from users, so that the feedback you get is the most effective one. People will try to be kind to you, so they won't tell you the right feedback when you ask them on questions, something like that. So that really helps. I think you can also go and look for that book, Mr. Muhammad Adam. So yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Samir. I think we also have one question. We have from Jungudos, Mr. Samir, how can we ensure that AI systems are fair and unbiased, especially when they are used in areas like hiring, lending, or law? Yeah, or law enforcement. That's the question.
Okay, so in terms of bias I think there are a couple of things you can do. First of all, let's look at law enforcement and all that, right? There are some areas that I'll say you'd also need a human eye. So I wouldn't depend on it completely, um, I could say, for example, AI could do this, and then you can also after you put the guardrails in terms of making sure that you have enough quality data you're training with, because what introduces bias sometimes is really the quality of data, right? That you use to train the AI. Obviously, the person doing bias, there's also that element. I think there's been cases of bias in AI, even in terms of AI in terms of image processing and all that, right? Also, there's I don't know if you've heard of this Amazon recognition. Amazon recognition was sort of like image recognition platform that's used by law enforcement, and it had some level of bias because it was not properly identifying Black people, and they went back and they realized that it was trained mainly with Caucasians, and that's predominantly the data. So I remember there was a project we're doing here, and once I realized that this was an issue with that particular AI, uh, we thought, okay, the best approach is, before we start using it, was to feed it our own data here, just to train it on that data, make sure that the quality is good. That's that's one. So guardrails, and make sure that the training models and all that is up to some specific benchmark and standards. The second would be, specific areas don't rely 100% on AI, where you can have someone to look at the data. Another project we're also working on is AI in hospitals, where it's going to give diagnosis, and those things are quite sensitive, right? So um, you would have, as part of the process within the application, we would have someone go through it first and confirm that it's okay before the use. Those are some of the things that come off the top of my head. Thank you.
Oh wow, that's massive. Thank you very much, Mr. Samir. So, did anyone have question? Adam, we have Isa Ali, we have Dr. Maimuna, like Jungudo, Fatima Haruna. Like, did anyone have question before we round up? Anyone have a question? Okay. Okay. If no one has a question, so I think we can just round it up here. So I would also I would also like to inform us about the Tech Ignite conference that we will be having, and a hackathon. So which would be a time for you to build some real problems. I think we will have it in the next 1 or 2 months. We'll share the next steps with the students. So, and the next thing is the Google built with AI. I think by next week we'll be starting something on that. So that's where you will also build some application using the Gemini Google products actually. So you can have chance to connect with teams and also get some match and learn some skills actually. So the next thing is also the GDG Tech Academy that we currently have, which there are some pathways, the AI, the design, the web development also. So you guys can continue participating. You can join them. There are some great people doing some great stuff there, and there are mentors that are guiding these people, these students. And we are the last thing, which is on the teams that we currently have at GDG, which are building some products. I know that Muhammad Adam is building something, GSU Market, right? Which solves the community we are in. This is what we actually need to be having among us. Like he looked at the GSU problem now, he looked at his community where he is. GSU, they lack a marketplace where people can go and buy some products within the students. So student will post his product, someone will go and buy. So this is something that solves the real problem, the community problem. And I know of Geek Inc. also, Adam, him too is building something, a community inc. where you would you find some resources, past patient papers, past resources, all these stuffs. Actually, you can learn a lot from there. And also, like me too, I'm the one I'm building the fast find and the vibro line, which all of these problems solves some community. These are just few that we have. It solves some community problems that we are in within the university. So I also invite you guys to also be among these teams, and you too, you can look at the problems we have. I think that's where you would show your if you have any idea on the hackathon that we'll be having in the next few 1 to 2 months actually. So I think, do you have any message um, to the student, Mr. Samir and Mr. Peter? The last your last words, if you have it, you can share with the students.
Hi. So I would say um, from my journey to where I am very early on, I started venturing out. If you're really interested in business and startup, right? Start venturing out early. Start looking at opportunities right there in school, as opposed to going through the traditional learning path, go out, get a job, and all that. You can. The only way to learn is we try, right? As this other speaker also mentioned, if you don't really, if you wait for the perfect idea, you may not even get to take off at all. So always start something. If it's not perfect, but the good thing is try and validate it very early and decide whether to pivot or to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter.
Let's say just a sentence is try as much as possible to keep it as simple as possible. If starting off, try to keep it very simple and straightforward. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Mr. Peter, for that, and Mr. Samir. We really appreciate the time given to us, and we have learned a lot from this. We have really learned more than a lot, actually. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. On behalf of the GDG student, we appreciate your time, and we hope that if we invite you next time, we'll be great. We'll be glad to have you on the session to guide our students. Thank you. Bye.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, then, thank you. Okay.